Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 68 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. Do me a favor and stick around to the end of the video, because I do have a small announcement to make about some changes that we've got coming up soon, and I would really appreciate that. With all that out of the way, make sure to sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. This is a story from last year, but I'm still bristling about it, so I thought it was worth a retell. I tacked a few days holiday onto a work trip to Charleston and had gotten Airbnb out on the coast with my husband and two old friends who lived in New York. They flew out to stay with us for the weekend. It was a real old friend catch up, very boozy, but very chilled out. We'd been out for lunch on the second day, and heading back to the house, we all grabbed a drink and went out onto the back garden deck thing to be greeted by the sight of a woman by the pool with two kids splashing around. As soon as she saw us, she ran over shouting and screaming at us. For a second, we all thought that we were in the wrong house. Anyway, the entitled woman, I'll call her Karen, started screaming at us saying that she'd been waiting for us for 30 minutes and in the end had to break the back gate to get in so the kids could use the pool. How her kids had gotten really hot and that we needed to get them some drinks and snacks now. My friend found her voice first and asked her what the F was going on and what this woman was doing in our pool. Karen explained/ranted that she was best friends with the owners but didn't know their names and that they let her use the pool when they weren't guests at the house. We pointed out that we were in fact guests. Karen retaliated saying that no one was in here when she arrived and she knew the owner would want her kids to be happy and we need to sort out those drinks and snacks for her kids. Meanwhile, I'm calling the owner who isn't picking up and the argument is getting heated with my husband telling the now very angry woman to get the F out of our backyard. She gets the kids out of the pool while shouting that we weren't using the pool anyway, how unhappy we were making the kids, and how we need to put these kids first. And I'm just thinking, I think the language coming out of your mouth is actually upsetting them more, Karen. Anyway, her parting shot as she leaves is to take the piss out of my accent, which was British, and then to finish us all off, she told us that we must be pedophiles to come away as a child-free group of 4 and that she was going to call the police on us. We were still so confused hours later. When the owner eventually called me back, it turns out that the woman is a relative of the woman who ran the cleaning company they used and have never once been invited to use the pool. Total effing craziness. But it did give us a good holiday story, I suppose. You know, I only thought it was fitting considering I've just come back from a holiday to start this episode off with somebody trying to ruin somebody else's holiday. Some of these entitled parents out here be straight crazy and I very well may have my own story for my holiday. I guess you'll have to wait and see. This one's a very different story than what I normally see on this sub, but I recently remembered this story when I got back in touch with the older daughter of my old classmate. I thought that it would fit in here. This happened when I was 7 and I'm 25 now, so I don't remember all the details. My elementary school had these mixed classes where all odd numbered grades were 1 and all even numbered grades were split up. So we had grades 1, 2A, 2B and grade 3 where grade 1 and 2A were in the same classroom. 2B was joint with 3 in one room, etc. because it was a relatively small school. Feel free to ask questions if that's not clear as it's quite hard to explain. I was in 2nd grade with the entitled mum's older daughter who had skipped from halfway through 1st grade to 2nd. The entitled mum wanted her younger daughter to do the same thing, however, her grades weren't as high, just average or slightly above, not enough to skip a grade. I was in the same classroom as both of these girls, who were both lovely. We often had school projects where every grade would learn about one thing and make displays and artwork and transform the classroom into whatever the theme was. At the end, there were open evenings where the kids could show their parents and grandparents what they've been working on for the past few weeks. During one of these evenings, the entitled mum walks around the classroom to look at what we've done. She then walked over to the teacher's desk and found a grading list of all the students. Very sneakily, at least she thought, she changed all of her kids' grades. Apparently, a 9 out of 10 wasn't even good enough for this entitled mum. Her kids needed to be perfect. The entitled mum stood by the desk as the teacher walked back in and caught her in the act. I don't know what was said since the teacher took the entitled mum outside, but after this, the entitled mum wasn't allowed to be in the classroom without a teacher present. The entitled mum was probably very lucky. I'm sure the school could have done more, but didn't since it was only 1st grade and her kids both did great without the mum cheating for them. Thinking back, I'm still shocked that somebody would do this, and I've worked as a teacher's assistant for 4 years but never came across someone so entitled. Well, at least what OP said at the start of the story really did hold true. I really haven't seen a story like this before on entitled parents, and quite frankly, I think it's just as bad as a lot of the ones we've seen in the past. I mean, maybe not quite as bad as the mum who crashed into somebody and then tried to blame the other person for nearly killing her kids, but still pretty bad. So I've been lurking on this sub for quite a while, and it feels nice to finally be able to make a post of a particular entitled mum that I had an encounter with about 4 or so years ago. So it's 2015 and we're having a family friend dinner party hosted at my parents' house. Me and my brother were young lads back then. Everything goes well, we have dinner, eat some Costco cookies, watch TV, etc. We also show off our 3DXs and our box of games for them and let some people play with them. Sounds good, right? Not exactly. By the end of the night, when everybody is starting to leave, we notice that our 3DSs and all of our games are gone. They've been stolen. We were devastated, but my little brother was the worst off since he just got a new 2DS and was close to completing Pokemon X. Right away, I knew that it was this a-hole kid. How did I know it was him, you might be wondering? Well, first off, he was the last one inside our rooms before the game disappeared, and he always stole something whenever he was over at someone's house. Right away, I told my mother, who then called the entitled mum the next day about our games. I don't remember much about the phone call, but I overheard that the entitled mum said that the entitled kid borrowed the games because he was curious about them and that we didn't let him play it as much as the other kids. My mum isn't having any of it and keeps telling her to give back the stuff. The entitled mum refuses. A couple of days pass, and by then, my mum has already told my dad about the situation. He was livid because he spent a lot of money to get those games for us and knew just how much we loved them. He right away calls the entitled kid's dad, who's quite chill, and explains that he wants those games back and says that the entitled mum didn't give them back. He profusely apologizes both for his son and his wife and checks the entitled kid's backpack. What do you know? All the games and the 3DS were right there. The dad drove over with the entitled kid to return them, and the entitled kid was forced to apologize to me and all of my brothers. To this day, I barely see them at the family friend parties. You know, I really just feel sorry for this dad. He's obviously a super chill dude and he has to deal with that entitled mum and this kid who, quite frankly, is just as entitled as the mum. It sounds to me like it's time this dad takes a bit of a stamp on raising this kid, because if this mum's allowed to raise a kid any longer, well, I don't think they're gonna have much chance in life. As most of you know, I worked at Six Flags over Texas for a while. It was not that bad of an experience, but I had my share of entitled parents. I mainly worked in the gift shops and the ticket scans. So it was a pretty average day. I was scanning passes and tickets for people when I see this entitled kid come crawling in. I obviously catch her and she gets up and throws a fit. Please keep in mind that the entitled kid is a teenage girl trying to crawl into Six Flags. So we take her into the office and ask her what she thought she was doing. She says she wanted to get into Six Flags and she should have gotten in. Come to find out, it's the same girl who attempted to steal a crap ton of merchandise in my previous story. Now, we retake her picture because she's gained stereotypical nerd level of acne and we call the entitled mum. The entitled mum comes in and she has that "can I speak to the CEO" haircut. She's also accompanied by the dad, who looks pretty average apart from looking like he was about to tear a hole in the fabric of space. The entitled mum doesn't realize that we remember her and attempts the exact same excuse. We confront her, but I intervene and whisper to the security guard to let her keep going. The entitled mum starts to explain that she deserves to go and she will be sad if she can't. The entitled kid starts a fake cry and I finally tell them all that I remember the entitled mum and the entitled kid. The dad has been attempting to discipline the entitled kid the whole time, but has failed. We tell them all to leave and everyone except the dad was banned. Not that it would have mattered anyway. I remember a few weeks after, we kept their pictures in our office so ticket sales could spot them and escort them off the park. I have one more entitled parent story, so if I get enough love, I will release it. I think what I said in the last story is still super valid for this story, and this dad needs to take a stand and stop letting this horrible entitled mum raise this kid. It maybe does sound like she's a little bit too far gone though. She's a teenager, she's already set in her entitled ways, but perhaps there's something to salvage there. I don't know, but honestly, I just always feel bad for these kids because, quite frankly, they're doomed from the start and it's just not their fault. I read in this article one time that after years of her family supporting her after a traumatic episode in her life that took away her ability to have kids, her family decides to disown her because of her brother's impending marriage and future parenthood. In the article, the lady said that in her childhood, she repeatedly had horrible things happen to her by a family friend and the damage to her body was really bad because of it. Basically, he tore her up really badly inside. As she grew older, she was in constant agonizing pain no matter what they tried or what the doctors did. Then one day, the damage got so bad that she supposedly nearly died from an infection, and the only way to save her life was to completely surgically remove her womb. After the surgery, her family was supportive for years. They treated her the same they always had. Though the family was religious and there were attempts to fix her inability to have kids once she'd recovered from her surgery. Then, years later, her brother announced his plans of getting married, and it's like a switch went off on the whole family. People who were supportive of her in the past now treated her differently. Even her own mum, who's been at her side since day one of everything that happened to her, was now avoiding her like she had the plague. When the daughter confronted the mum about it, the mum openly admitted that she was avoiding her because she didn't want to waste her time anymore with a daughter who can't give her grandkids, but wants to now spend all of her time with a son and future daughter-in-law who can give her grandkids. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but this story pisses me off a hell of a lot more than it probably should. Really, I don't even know if this person is an entitled mother more than just an absolutely downright horrible mother. Realistically, the daughter should be so grateful that she got this disgusting mum out of her life because she would have been a controlling, horrible grandmother. And to think there would be some magical fix in order to get this person who doesn't have a womb to have kids, I can't even fathom the stupidity. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. So at the start of the video, I asked you guys to hang around to the end and you're about to find out why. Over the last couple of weeks in particular, I've had a lot of people asking me to mix things up a little bit, saying that the Entitled Parents is getting a little bit dry, maybe even the Reddit type stuff is getting a little bit boring. So in order to try and keep things fresh, exciting, and to produce good content, I am going to mix things up a little bit. My first idea for this was to tell my own Entitled Parents story. Now I do have one that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago in an episode, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys, but I don't want to do it in the normal format that I make the videos in now. So what I've done is I've gone out and brought what we'll call some vlogging equipment, and it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more me talking to you guys about my story as opposed to me just reading something out off Reddit, because I know that can get a little bit dull. I just want you guys to keep in mind this is just one video. It's something that I'm trying. It doesn't mean that I'm not making the Reddit videos anymore. I just want to see how this goes, see how you guys receive it, and if it's something that you guys enjoy watching. So sometime in the next week I'll probably release that video. I've obviously got some kinks to work out. I haven't done that before, so I'm going to mess with it and see if I can get the video to be the best I can, and hopefully you guys like it. But in the meantime, and after that as well, don't expect any less Reddit videos. I know you guys do enjoy them still. I really just want to, like I said, keep things fresh and make sure that I'm doing things that are enjoyable for everyone. Otherwise though, I am going to let that wrap things up for today's video. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for another Reddit video. Bye.